Hey everyone, it's Hillel Neuer for a live Instagram. Can you hear me? Let's see if people can hear me. I'm using a microphone. I'm gonna look on the screen, see if people can hear, looking at the chat. I'm looking at the chat to see if you can hear me. Want to make sure the audio works. All right, we're loud and clear. Excellent. Welcome everyone to a live stream. I don't do so many of these, but we want to do more of them. Let me position my camera properly. Okay, a bit better. Let's see. Okay, how's that? Okay, folks, I'm going to tell you a little bit about our campaign. We're going to start with that, and then we're going to take questions. So we are in the middle of our annual campaign. So thank you for joining us live, whether you're tuning in from Geneva, New York, Paris, Toronto, Tel Aviv, or anywhere around the world. We have a global community. We're now officially 1 week into our fundraising campaign. It's our annual campaign. It began on November 17th, and today is our moment to share where we stand and where we still need to go. Our goal is clear. We need to raise $1 million by December 2nd. We have just 9 days left in our campaign. This is our annual campaign to fund the vital work of UN Watch. So first, thank you to everyone who's already stepped up. We've received many donations from around the world, generous donations, large and small. So everyone who has donated, who has shared the campaign, and who's helping us to build momentum, thank you very much. It really makes a difference. And I'm going to let you know where we stand right now with our campaign. Bear with me. As you know, we need to raise $1 million by December 2nd to continue the vital work of UN Watch. And I'm going to let you know where we stand right now. Give me just a moment. And soon I'm going to take your questions. So that's coming up. Okay, so we have 9 days left. And so far, we have reached $272,000 and 587. So $272,000 so far, which is great. So it means in about 1 week, we received $270,000. That's amazing. Thank you to everyone who donated various amounts, large and small. Every donation counts. Every donation that you get, that you make, I see it, my staff sees it, and it helps us financially, and it also helps us morally and gives us great encouragement. So we still have a ways to go to reach our $1 million. So please tell all your friends, you know the vital work of UN Watch. We are on the front lines, fighting against injustice, fighting against lies, fighting against bias and discrimination, fighting for genuine human rights. And only once a year do we ask you, our global community around the world, to give your financial support. This is the time. It will enable our work for the next year. So please, if you're able to donate and you haven't done so already, whatever you can donate, please go online, unwatch.org, make your donations, share it with your friends. You can see the campaign, share it with your friends. If you know people who can make a nice donation of any kind, please share it with them and urge them to donate, because we need UN Watch. We need UN Watch, which is really a vital voice, a lone voice in the world, certainly at the United Nations, fighting injustice. UN Watch, we've made an incredible start. $270,000 in our campaign is an incredible start, but we still have a long way to go to reach our $1 million goal by December 2nd. So we really need your help. UN Watch, as you know, exists to speak truth when others are silent. We're defending victims when the world looks away, and we demand accountability when otherwise there is impunity. That is the vital role of UN Watch. So at the United Nations, where double standards often replace principles, where dictators too often sit on high positions on human rights bodies, it is UN Watch alone that is pushing back with facts, with moral clarity, and with courage. And you know that. So your support allows us to expose bias, to defend democracy, to elevate dissidents. We bring the world's leading human rights champions and bring them into the United Nations, where their oppressors are sitting there often on the Human Rights Council, on the Women's Rights Commission. We bring human rights heroes to tell the truth, whether it's leaders of opposition from Belarus, Venezuela, Iran, Zimbabwe, Pakistan, Cuba, China. We're bringing them all the time to speak, and we challenge injustice publicly, diplomatically, and this, unapologetically. We are unapologetically speaking the truth. One group at the United Nations, one voice speaks the truth. That's UN Watch. So our campaign isn't only about reaching a number, it's also about giving strength to a voice that must be heard. UN Watch is the voice that must be heard. We're your voice at the United Nations. So this year, for the first time, your support also gives you a chance to join our global UN Watch community as a member. So that's something new that we've introduced, is to be a member of UN Watch. And let me tell you a little bit about what membership means. Just give me a moment. So for $180 a year or $18 a month, you can become a member of UN Watch. You get a membership card, which is a nice thing to have. You get exclusive updates about the latest information about what's going on, our battles, our campaigns. You get early access to our annual gala dinner. So please, if you haven't done so already, become a member of UN Watch. It's a statement. It's taking a stand. $180 a year or $18 a month, if you prefer to do it monthly. Become a member of UN Watch. It's a nice thing. You tell people you're part of an incredible organization. Now, if you're able to join the next level, you can see it on our website. It's called the Advocates Club. You get exclusive briefings, you get diplomatic insights, and you get VIP access to our Geneva Summit for Human Rights. So if you're able to make $1,800 donation, a number of you have done so, you can join our Advocates Club. The next level, if you're able to give $5,000, you can join our Guardians Club. The Guardians Club gives you VIP gala access, recognition in UN Watch materials, and you give important support for UN Watch. Now, those who are able to give $10,000, and some of you have done so, that gives you access, membership in our Ambassadors Circle. Our Ambassador Circle for $10,000. You get private briefings. You get special access for questions and answers, Q&A with myself and other leading figures in the world of UN Watch. So that's if you're able to give $10,000, you can join our Ambassadors Circle. If you're able to do so, that's a great way to support the work of UN Watch and to join an exclusive group of friends who get private briefings and access to opinion leaders. For those who are able to give $25,000, again, we need to raise $1 million. We need to raise a little over $700,000 in the next 9 days to reach our goal of $1 million. If you're able to give $25,000, you will help us in a significant way to reach our goal, and you will get membership on our Leadership Council. That includes all of the above and strategic meetings with UN Watch leadership, that's myself and others, and special recognition in various places and various materials. So if you're able to give $25,000, you're a part of our Leadership Council. If those who are able to do so, that would be amazing if you can join our Leadership Council. Finally, for those who are able to make the generous gift of $50,000, you join the UN Watch Cabinet. That means you're a member of our cabinet. You get special, all of the perks and privileges mentioned above, plus you get access to the UN Watch delegation to the United Nations. So you get to be part of our delegation, meeting diplomats, having access to debates, seeing myself and others speaking, and special access in our delegation, if you're a member of our delegation. And you get to participate in cabinet level briefings and events, hosting me in your city to speak. I just spoke, this year in Australia, in Brazil, just in Florida, in Boca Raton, just over the weekend. And if you're a member of our cabinet level, I will come to your city and you can host a private meeting for your friends and others who need to hear me. So Folks, these are the different tiers. You can see it on our website. Whatever tier fits for you, please join us and help. No matter which level you join, membership means belonging. So you can find all of the details on our website, unwatch.org. Once again, friends, we have 9 days left to reach our goal of $1 million. It means every hour matters, every gift matters, every new member matters. So if you're watching right now and you've been thinking about joining UN Watch or upgrading your support, now is the moment. The moment is now. You can donate through the link that's in the description here, or by visiting unwatch.org/donate, unwatch.org/donate. This is your chance to support a vital organization that you know of that has incredible impact all year round. This is the one time per year that we need your support. So thank you truly. You're funding truth and accountability. Now we'd love to hear from you. We've already gathered several questions that have been asked on social media over the past week. You can continue adding more questions in the chat. So now is your chance during the next several minutes. We have maybe about 15 minutes or so. We'll see how it goes. Maybe 20 minutes. We'll see how it goes. Please feel free in the chat to ask any questions about the work of UN Watch, or about our campaign, or about the United Nations, or anything related. We'll try to get through as many questions as we can. So I'm going to take a look here in the chat room, see if folks are there. I'm not seeing it in the chat. Let's see. Let's see. Connect the chats. All right, let's see if this works on my desktop. Otherwise, we'll go on my mobile. See what's going on the mobile. Taking a look. Okay, now I'm seeing chats. Now I'm seeing chats on my desktop. And let's see here. Let's see. Give me just a moment. Just looking at the chats. All right. Well, I see from Kamilag, I'm reading the name wrong because I can't see the name in detail, but it says, please let the world know that Iranians don't want the Islamic regime. Now, that's a very important point. Thank you for raising that. You know, I've done a lot of work with the Iranian people, so I know how it works with Iranians and the regime, but many people don't know. The Iranian people do not want the Islamic regime, okay? We have to make, it's very important to make the distinction between the Islamic regime, which took over in a revolution in 1979, and has been oppressing, beating, brutalizing, arresting, jailing, shooting, torturing people who protest, women who protest, others. And the people of Iran don't want the Islamic regime. And it's very important to distinguish the oppressive regime and the people who want freedom and democracy. So I'm happy to make that point, which is very well known and something we bring victims and heroes from Iran. So, so that's a very important point. Let me go to some of the questions, okay, that have already been asked, that we received. Give me a moment. I'm going to go here to various questions that we received from all of you. Okay, so Hans asks the question, what is the single biggest structural problem inside the UN today? What is the single biggest structural problem inside the UN today? Well, I would say that that is the fact that dictatorships often get elected to high UN bodies. That is the biggest structural problem. The UN is what you make of it. So if the Human Rights Council includes China, which it does, and Cuba, and Qatar, and Pakistan, and they just elected Iraq, and Mauritania, which has slavery, was a member, and Somalia, which is a failed state that has female genital mutilation, was a member, and Venezuela was a longtime member, which is a regime, the Maduro regime is oppressing the Venezuelan people and caused 7 million people to flee. If all of these countries are members of the UN and then get membership on the Human Rights Council and the Women's Rights Commission, to have Iran on the Women's Rights Commission, that is a major structural problem. So unfortunately, the presence of dictatorships on those bodies. And sadly, the democracies who don't fight back enough to stop the dictatorships from winning election, right? So dictatorships are in the General Assembly. Every country is in the General Assembly. Qatar, which supports terrorism. China, which oppresses 1.5 billion people, including 1 million Muslim Uyghurs put in camps. No one talks about it. Sudan, where 150,000 have been killed in the recent conflict. No one is talking about it. No resolutions at the General Assembly. All of that is bad enough that these countries are sitting there in the General Assembly. But then many of them get elected to the Human Rights Council. Iran got elected. The Islamic regime in Iran got elected to the Women's Rights Commission. We led the campaign to expel, the successful campaign to expel the Islamic regime of Iran, to kick them off. So we helped kick the Islamic regime of Iran off of the Women's Rights Commission. But that is a major structural problem at the UN. Well, Javier asks, why do some of the world's worst abusers like China, Iran, Russia get to sit on the Human Rights Council and shape human rights resolutions? So I would say that I've kind of just addressed that. And one of the main problems is, two things. One is the dictatorships use their power to trade favors. They give economic favors, they give political favors, they do vote trading so that they will get elected. China, Russia, Iran very much want to be on human rights bodies for their own propaganda. So they are willing to trade a lot, okay, to do cynical deals behind closed doors to get countries to vote for them. So that is a major problem. But then, as I mentioned before, the democracies don't fight back enough. They congratulate, so congratulations to Pakistan and Qatar and Cuba and Venezuela for being elected to the Human Rights Council. That is sort of UN diplomacy going along to get along, and that is not fighting for the true principles of the UN. Keep in mind, the Human Rights Council, when it was created in June of 2006, the founding resolution 60/251 speaks of having standards, membership standards. If a country commits gross and systematic human rights violations, they can be removed under Article 8. So there is no idea, no notion that everyone gets to be on it. No, there are supposed to be criteria and membership. So that's why the democracies like France, Germany, the UK, Canada, Australia, need to speak out. And when you see dictatorships running, don't congratulate them, don't keep silent, speak out and say it's wrong. Too many of them are not doing that. So let's see, I'm looking at some other questions that we've got. Well, thank you, John from Massachusetts, who says, thank you for your and UN Watch's vital reporting, exposure and confrontation of bad actors at the UN. Well, thank you, John, for your support in Massachusetts. Okay, we have Evo who asks, how much is the UN General Assembly vote still left over from the Arab oil embargo from 1973? And can't that change with less Arab oil dependency? That's a really good question. After the 1973 Yom Kippur War, when the Egypt and Syria and other Arab states joined in to attack Israel, and then Israel took a lot of losses, lost a lot of its soldiers, and then managed to fight back and prevail. Then the Arab states decided to punish America and Western countries by imposing an oil embargo, and pressured many countries in Africa to break relations with Israel. So the Arab monopoly over oil, countries like Saudi Arabia and others, used it as a political weapon. And the question is, are the votes against Israel today still related? And I would say partly. The votes against Israel, the automatic votes, as in the words of Abba Iban, if Algeria were to introduce a resolution saying that declaring that the earth was flat and condemning Israel for having flattened it, it would pass by a majority of 170 to 12 with 11 abstentions. So that quip is still relevant today. There's still an automatic majority of resolutions of countries who vote against Israel. As you know, last year, there was one resolution on North Korea, one on Iran, one on Syria, and 17 against Israel. 17 against, so 17 to 1. One on Iran, 17 on Israel. And many of the countries vote for it. So why do they vote for it? I would say the reasons are vote trading. There are 56 Islamic states. If you vote for these resolutions, they will help vote for you. So vote trading. There's only one Jewish state. So if you vote for the Jewish state, you get one vote. If you vote for the Islamic states who support these resolutions, you get 56 votes for your pet cause, number one. Number two, oil. It's true that the Arab states and their control over oil is not what it used to be. America has oil. Israel has some natural gas, but it's still very substantial. And I think it is still a major factor why China and other countries want to vote with Arab-sponsored, Islamic-sponsored resolutions, the oil weapon. Third, I would say is sovereign wealth funds. Countries like Qatar have billions of dollars, and they will invest it or not in a country if they vote for their resolutions condemning Israel, even if they're one-sided. And I would say fear of terrorism. There are countries that are afraid if they do the right thing, if they do the principled thing, if they take a stand against a resolution that effectively supports Hamas, they will be targeted, maybe by Hamas, maybe by the jihad, maybe by ISIS. And so they're afraid of that. Finally, I would say it's not only realpolitik. Everything I mentioned before, vote trading, oil, sovereign wealth funds, fear of terrorism, those are all rational reasons. You can like them or not like them, but you can understand why a country might make a decision for their interests. But I don't want to let you believe, I don't want to mislead you to thinking that it's only about the realpolitik. I see some countries voting against Israel who don't seem pressured by the interests of the realpolitik. They seem comfortable condemning the world's only Jewish state. So in my opinion, in my observation, I've been there for 20 years at the UN. In the Middle Ages, when there was the Black Plague, they decided to blame the Jews. The Jews have poisoned the wells, is what they said, and they scapegoated the Jews and attacked them and murdered many Jewish people. And in our own time, that seems to have been revived. If there's crises in the world, if there's war in the world, if there's troubles, financial problems, blame the Jews. It's the oldest scapegoating and conspiracy. The Jews are responsible. And of course, today you say it's Israel, the Jewish state. So I do believe that another major factor is not only the realpolitik, but also, I would say, the irrational factor. Israel has become, in the words of the historian Jacob Talmon, the Jew among the nations. And today, Israel, the way that the Jews were scapegoated, the Jewish state is scapegoated. And there is what we call anti-Semitism, hatred against Jews, irrational factor, very much a factor in why countries still vote against Israel. Okay. Tali Schechter sends a nice message. Thank you, Hillel, for your voice and the amazing work that you and UN Watch are doing. You are such a bright light. Thank you, and God bless you. Thank you, Tali. I really appreciate it. You know, we get so much support from around the world, whether it's financial support or whether it's words of support, and every expression of support is is wind in our sails. It really keeps us going. So let me go back to some of our questions that we asked. I'll come back to the Instagram. Hold on a second. By the way, the donate link is in our bio. Okay, the donate link is in our bio, and I've just pinned it. My colleagues asked me to pin it, and so I've done so. So to remind everyone who's been listening, we began this Instagram Live. We're in the middle of our campaign. We have 9 days left. We need to raise $1 million to continue the vital work of UN Watch. We've raised over $270,000 thanks to all of your support. If you haven't yet donated, this is your chance to become a member of UN Watch, part of our community. It really means a lot. I see every donation. I can't answer all of you because time is pressing, a lot of meetings going on, a lot of work, but I see every donation that you make, and it's really incredibly encouraging from around the world. So thank you to everyone. Spread the word, share the message. Okay, I'm going to go back to our questions that we collected from the past week, and then I'll come back to the live questions. Let's see here. Well, Luca asks, what are some of the informal rules inside the UN that no one talks about, but everyone obeys? That's a good question. Well, one of those rules is to let dictatorships win high positions and just sort of not talk about it, pretend that it's normal. Pretend that it's normal for the worst violators to be sitting on the Human Rights Council, the Women's Rights Commission, and other related bodies, to be on the committee that oversees NGOs, non-governmental organizations. A lot of dictatorships sitting on that. And the UN, everyone thinks it's normal because it's been normalized, but it's not a normal thing. And of course, targeting Israel all the time, special agenda items against Israel, disproportionate amount of resolutions against Israel, giving a free pass to Hamas. It's kind of an unwritten rule at the UN. Avi asks, what do you see as the root causes for the UN's disproportionate focus on Israel? I guess I kind of answered that before with talking about the Islamic nations, 56 of them, vote trading, the oil weapon, sovereign wealth fund, the impact of billions of dollars of Qatari and other funds, fear of terrorism, and that influences a lot of countries. And I said also irrational hatred against the Jewish state and the Jewish people. These are all factors. Bar asks, how has the UN's treatment of Israel evolved in the past decade? That is a good question. I'm going to go back not the past decade, I'm going to ask the past 50 years. Okay, 50 years ago this month, the UN adopted the Zionism is Racism infamous resolution. And I want to say a word about that. I'm actually going to be speaking in Jerusalem at the Begin Center on Sunday evening, November 30th, I believe is the date. Sponsored by NGO Monitor. I'm going to be with Gerald Steinberg and Gil Troy and others. So if you're in Jerusalem, I'll be speaking on Sunday evening, 50 years of the infamous Zionism is Racism resolution. And, how did things change since then? So 50 years ago, the UN General Assembly declared that Zionism is a form of racism. And that was a Soviet-backed initiative backed by the Arab states to declare that the movement of national self-liberation for the Jewish people is a form of racism, which was absurd. Numerous new countries had joined the UN in the 1960s and thereafter, some in the 1950s, under the banner of national self-liberation. And suddenly only the Zionist movement, which says that Jews have the right to return to their ancestral homeland, recognized in the Balfour Declaration, in the League of Nations mandate, Jews returning to their ancient ancestral homeland, where Jews had been living continuously for 2,000 years after the Second Temple was destroyed and after they were exiled. And suddenly the UN General Assembly in 1975 is an act of Soviet disinformation, propaganda, anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism. The Soviet Union passed this infamous text. So what changed? The UN has been anti-Israel since 1975. And I have to mention that in 1991, 16 years later, when the Soviet Union fell, that's exactly when the UN repealed. The UN almost never repeals a resolution, cancels one of its own declarations. They did so in 1991. They repealed the infamous Zionism is Racism resolution. So that was repealed. But what changed from 1975 to today? You could say the UN has been attacking Israel nonstop since 1975. All of the annual resolutions, about 20 every year. Now it's about 17, but historically it's about 20 more or less. Going back 50 years, it's been 5 decades of anti-Israel resolutions. What changed? I would say if you read Ambassador Daniel Patrick Moynihan's speech, and Gil Troy wrote the incredible book, Moynihan's Moment, you should read that book. But in Ambassador Moynihan's speech, he speaks about the fact that leading institutions in America in 1975 knew that what the UN had done was a terrible thing. When the UN said that the movement for the Jewish people to be free in their own homeland is a form of racism, he recalled the fact that the unions, the labor unions, the US Congress, I think every member of the Congress except for one condemned it. And civil society as a whole, lawyers and activists, everyone knew that a terrible thing had been done. It was a form of anti-Semitism. And sadly, if you fast forward 50 years, the UN is still doing resolutions against Israel more than ever before. That changed a little bit, even more. Commissions of inquiry, even more. Special rapporteurs like Francesca Albanese, who supports Hamas. People like her are active even more than before, year-round. So they've definitely ramped up their activity. But the difference is, sadly, is that whereas in places like America and other societies, in the past, the UN did something terrible, but outside the UN, that was condemned, and it was seen as something terrible outside the UN, in leading influential circles outside the UN. Today, sadly, since October 7th and leading up to it, we see things have changed, that sadly many elements in society are joining the UN's anti-Israel march. The obsession, the pathology, the irrational hate, the demonization, the scapegoating. If it once stayed in the UN, but outside in America, certainly was condemned. Today, we see they elected Mamdani, a mayor who endorses anti-Israel, virulent anti-Israel statements. He recently said that a synagogue was abusing its sacred space by allowing in a group that's giving information about moving to Israel, which the Jewish people, Israel is a central part of the Jewish people, and returning to Israel is a central part of Judaism. And for a synagogue to be talking about it, it's in the prayers. That's in the prayers 3 times a day when you say grace after meals. you talk about Israel and Zion and Jerusalem, it's when you get married in Judaism, an essential part of Judaism is living in Israel and the centrality of Israel for the Jewish people. It is and always was. So for the mayor of New York to condemn that as a synagogue promoting violations of international law is a very dangerous statement. So if we look back 50 years ago, outside the UN building in New York, everyone, the mayor and everyone condemned the Zionism as racism. Sadly, today, if you go outside the UN building in New York, the mayor is parroting, echoing the pro-Hamas propaganda coming out of the UN. So that's a long answer to a short question. Let me take one or two more questions from that were gathered, and then I'm going to go look at the Q&A that you guys are putting on the chat. Lisa asked, what are the human rights issues ignored on a global scale? Okay, human rights issues ignored on a global scale. Sadly, there are so many. If we speak about the UN General Assembly, I mentioned they adopted one resolution on Syria, one on North Korea, one on Iran, several on Russia, one or two condemning America for different things, and that's about it, okay? The vast majority of the rest of the world are ignored. I mentioned Sudan. Millions of people are homeless, are displaced. 150,000 have been killed. Atrocities are happening in Sudan. The General Assembly has done nothing. The General Assembly of the United Nations has done nothing on Sudan. No emergency session, no resolution. This is despicable, despicable. China, 1/5 of humanity, 1.5 billion people, no freedom of speech, no freedom of religion, no freedom of assembly, cannot protest. If you lift up a white piece of paper, they throw you in prison right away, as they did to Ray Cha, a woman in Shanghai we brought to speak at our annual Geneva Summit. She raised up a white piece of paper, okay? She did this on the street in Shanghai. She did this, and they came to take her away right away. They do the same in Russia as well. And on China, they have 1 million Muslim Uyghurs in camps. No one says a thing at the UN General Assembly. No one says anything at the Human Rights Council. Never been a single condemnation of China at the Human Rights Council. Never been a single commission of inquiry, a single urgent session. So those are two situations that require the world's attention that are completely ignored. And I would say many more. Go to our website, unwatch.org. We've been asking people to donate. If you can donate, it's our annual campaign. We raised $270,000. We need to raise $1 million by December 2nd. We need your help. But if you're going to unwatch.org/donate, you can also go to unwatch.org/database. And if you go to unwatch.org/database, you will see, or database, if you have a different pronunciation. I'm Canadian, so we say database. Data, tomato, tomato. But unwatch.org/database, you will see all of the resolutions adopted on the whole world. How many on Iran, how many on North Korea, how many on China, how many on Sudan, how many in Russia, at the General Assembly, at the Human Rights Council. Go to unwatch.org/database or database, either one, it will work, and you'll get incredible information. And take one final question that we collected, one final bit that we collected, and then I'm going to go look at the chat. Oh, here's an interesting question, but it's the same person. It's Lisa, so I'm going to see someone else. Let's see. How can we make people, Paul asks, how can we make people trust UN Watch as having the truth instead of the UN? That is a great question. Thank you, Paul. How can we make people understand that in many cases, our organization is telling the truth and not what you're hearing from a UN Human Rights Council or UN rapporteur? We have to share the facts. At the end of the day, it's the facts. So if the UN is saying that Hamas and other terrorist groups, or Maduro, the dictator Maduro, or Ayatollah Khamenei are legitimate rulers and they get to be elected to high human rights bodies, and UN Watch tells you the truth, just people need to hear the facts. And we are always giving the facts. We're citing to sources and footnotes and details. And at the end of the day, to convince people, we have to give them the facts, and we have to educate people. So everyone, you should share UN Watch videos and our materials on your social media. Share with your friends. If you have friends who don't understand these basic things, send them to the unwatch.org/database, which has a lot of key points and facts there, which are quite amazing. All right, let me see on how my power is on my computer. We're going low on power, so let me make sure to plug in. Okay, so now the sound is good. We're back in the game. And our power is connected, so we're all good. Let's see if you have questions here. All right. Well, someone asked, what do we do about people who don't give a darn about the facts? Well, there's nothing you can do. It can't force people to listen to the truth. At the end of the day, our work is showing the truth, showing the facts, making the case. We try to do it in a compelling way, whether it's speaking or videos. We try however you can communicate the truth. In the end, you can't force people to do anything. I can't. Okay. So let's see some other questions. Okay, it's a nice question. I can't pronounce your name, so I can't. It's a little too small for me to read it. But this is a sort of a weird question he or she asks. But I'm a high school student, and I was wondering if there's any way a high schooler could work with or get involved with UN Watch. It's a good question. So the short answer is no. We don't have any direct way for you to be involved. But what we do first, we do have internships. Those are for people who are a little bit older. You have to be above 18 and have 1 year of university studies. And you go on our website and you can apply to be an intern with UN Watch, which is a great opportunity. So you have to wait till 1 year university. But if you're in high school, what you can do is share our material. First of all, you have to get educated. So sign up to UN Watch, very important. Sign up on our website, not just on social media. Go on our website, unwatch.org, sign up, give your email. You'll get emails to update you on very important things that are going on. And you will become probably the most informed student in your high school class, and share the information with your friends. Much of what I know today, a lot of it I really began learning in high school. When I was 12, 13, 14, I just read. I used to go to the library. A friend of mine, she used to pick me up, take me to the library when I was 15 and 16, and I would just read everything. Okay, this was before internet when I grew up, and I was super interested in politics and history and Israel and Judaism, things from my background, and living in Canada. I was interested in Canada, and I was devouring books. My dad used to tell me late at night, I don't know, 1 a.m., said, turn off the light, go to sleep. But I was reading a lot of books. So if you're in high school, this is a chance. Your brain is like a sponge. So it's a great opportunity to read a lot. So for UN Watch to get involved, sign up on our website. Certainly follow us on social media, Instagram, Twitter, x.com. Most information is really on x.com, on my account, Hillel Neuer, UN Watch, but we put also a lot on Instagram. And get educated and share it. Share it with your friends. That is the best way to get involved. All right, I'm looking at other questions. Okay, it's a good question from Carlson from Sweden. It says, I'm a pro-Israeli man from Sweden who wonders how most countries at the United Nations can turn their eyes away when you give them evidence about, for example, Francesca Albanese, who is a Hamas supporter. Yeah, look, it's quite shocking. I agree with you, Carlson. We present the simple facts. Francesca Albanese, on the day of October 7th, she was tweeting on x.com, she was tweeting, there's a context. She was justifying Hamas as the massacre was taking place. Francesca Albanese was tweeting that day in favor of Hamas. In November 2022, she went before a Hamas conference organized by Bassem Naim of Hamas, and she's told them, you have the right to resist. She said America is subjugated by the Jewish lobby, which is 1930s style anti-Semitism. She said, the BBC, you have the Israel lobby in your veins. She said, Israel's like the Third Reich. She repeatedly supports Hamas. She spreads Hamas lies. She spreads conspiracy theories. When there was the attack on the Charlie Hebdo journalists that were murdered by ISIS terrorists, and they murdered Jews at a kosher grocery store in Paris at the same time, Francesca Albanese shared an Iranian media lie saying that the attackers were the CIA and the Mossad. The CIA and the Mossad. So vile conspiracy theories designed to exonerate Islamic terrorists like ISIS and to falsely accuse in a conspiracy theory America and Israel being behind it. This is Francesca Albanese. We've documented all of that. It's on our website, unwatch.org. You can get all the full dossier on Francesca Albanese. Our report is called Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. We've put it out there. We've sent it to the UN member states. And how do they turn their eyes away? Sadly, the UN is often a very cynical place, very political, and they do things that are not necessarily the right thing, the true thing. They do what they think is in their interests. They don't want to upset certain nations. They don't want to upset the UN itself, the UN staff, the UN Secretariat, the UN rapporteurs. And so very few are willing to speak out. So I do commend France and Germany, Canada, for condemning Francesca Albanese for anti-Semitism and Holocaust inversion. They've only done it a few times. I wish they would speak out more often, but they did so. Italy condemned her recently. The Netherlands said she has to go. France said she had to go as well to draw consequences. We have a list, condemnations of Francesca Albanese. See it on our website, condemnations of Francesca Albanese. So some countries have spoken out, but not enough. And again, it's cynical politics. Cynical politics. So there's one who says we're in Latin America, need more of this information in Spanish. We're trying to put things in Spanish. We do have some Spanish. We did try with Spanish social media. I don't think we're doing it right now, but we did try it. But I agree with you. We should go back to it and put things in Spanish as well. We do have now in French. You can find our material in French. We have one in Hebrew now. You can find UN Watch en français or in Hebrew. So we're beginning, but we should do more languages, we hope to, in the future. Can the actions of the General Assembly be taken to task for contravening the purposes and principles of the UN Charter? Yes and no, meaning the UN, if the UN General Assembly violates their own charter, we can speak out. They can be condemned, but there's no judicial body, right? So in a normal context, of in a country, in Canada, in America, in the UK, or in many countries, if a government does something that's wrong, you can challenge it in court. You can say it violates a supreme Bill of Rights, a Declaration of Human Rights, a Constitution, and you can challenge a decision that is unjust and wrong, or illegal, or unconstitutional. But at the UN, you can't. That is the core structural problem. If the UN General Assembly or the Human Rights Council celebrates Hamas, celebrates the Maduro regime, celebrates Fidel Castro, celebrates, the leaders of Sudan, electing them to some high office, there's no judicial body to challenge it, right? There's no judicial body to challenge it, even if it violates the UN Charter. And that's why we need UN Watch. That's why UN Watch was created 32 years ago by the great civil rights leader, Morris Abrams, because you need an outside body, at least, to call it out, to hold them to account. So take a drink. Reminding everyone, we're in a Q&A, but it's our campaign, our annual campaign. We need to raise $1 million by December 2nd. We've raised $270,000 so far. We need to raise a lot more. If you haven't donated yet, please do so. We really need your help. Tell all your friends. If you know someone who can donate, large or small, $180 gets you to be a member of UN Watch. And we have other circles, 1,800, 5,000, 10,000, up to 50,000. Whatever you can donate is super appreciated and makes a huge difference. Go to unwatch.org/donate. unwatch.org/donate or unwatch.org. You can find the donations. You can donate online. Does UN Watch have employees? Yes, we do. We're about a dozen. And I'm the spokesperson that you see, but we have about a dozen employees in different parts of the world. And we are researching, doing legal analysis, doing writing, doing organizing. We have our annual Geneva Summit for Human Rights. February 18th in Geneva, incredible event. Go to genevasummit.org. You can come to our annual Human Rights Summit. So we're now working on our next summit that's coming up in February. It's going to be our 18th annual summit. So we have people working on that and many other things. Will you post this after on YouTube? My video was frozen after 25 minutes. Yes, we do intend to post this on YouTube. And let's see a few other questions. Let's see here. Someone says, great meeting you on Shabbat. Keep fighting the good fight. Well, I was in Boca Raton with an amazing community and an amazing Rabbi Goldberg, and had a terrific event. So thanks to everyone who heard me speak in Boca. And hopefully I can come and speak in your town. If you send me an invitation, and sometimes it requires a donation to UN Watch if I'm going to fly all around the world. But if I can come and speak, I'm happy to do so. Again, this year I was in Brazil and Rio and Sao Paulo, met amazing people there. I was in Sydney, Australia. I didn't get to Melbourne this time. I apologize. I just didn't have time. That was why I had to be back at the UN. But I was in Sydney. We were 1,300 people. It was amazing. And in the past year or so, I was in Montreal and Toronto. And I was in LA last year. I did a bit in Europe. I was in Lausanne recently. And I was in Stockholm a year and a half ago. I was in London recently speaking in the Parliament, and I was at Oxford Union. Wait for that debate. We're waiting for Oxford to put that online. But I try to get around and see all of you. Again, I'll be in Jerusalem on Sunday evening if you want to come. I go to the Begin Center website. We're speaking an event there on about the 50th year of Zionism is racism. Okay, let's see some recent questions. Getting some praise from different people. I can't pronounce all of your names, but thank you very much. Thank you, Carlson. And someone just donated. I can't read your name. It says something like U dot or something. I can't really read your name. I just donated. Euro.org. That's who did. Thank you for everyone who just donated. Every donation you make online, I see it. Every donation, whether you make it online or by check, I see the donation, and it really means a lot. All right. Someone asks, says like Renan Sands or something like that. Can you tell us a bit about the power of non-democratic tyrannies in the UN, how they ally in anti-Israeli discussions? So the truth is, I did talk about that a lot in this discussion already, but those who sponsor the resolutions against Israel are typically the tyrannies. It's countries like Qatar, like Libya, like Syria, like Iran, with tyrannies like Cuba, the communist regime of Cuba, the Maduro regime of Venezuela, the Chinese communist regime. So the tyrannies very much work together, and what we need is for the democracies to work together. That's what we're fighting for. When we meet diplomats, we ask the democracies, you need to work together. The dictatorships are all working together. They're achieving, sadly, a lot. We need to work together. Let's see here. All right, well, I think it's Aurel asks a question. Given the unprecedented scale of the global Islamist threat, do you believe that there should be a recalibration of counterterrorism frameworks in domestic legislation? Well, that's a good question. It's not really a UN-related question. I'm not going to say it's my expertise, but I would say that after 9/11, there was a recalibration of counterterrorism legislation. So my feeling is, okay, I'm not an expert on counterterrorism legislation, but my general sense is that the legislation is in place to fight terrorism, and it's about the will. Okay, it's about the will. We saw with fighting, violent protests by Hamas supporters on the streets that amount to way beyond just freedom of speech, but blocking access to synagogues, blocking access to Jewish schools, activities that amount to intimidation and illegal activities. Many police forces in Canada, where I come from, in Montreal and Toronto, but also in the US and other places. We saw it even in New York. The head of the police in New York apologized for allowing these horrible anti-Semitic protesters last week at the Park East Synagogue that blocked access to the synagogue, and the police didn't stop it. So my comment about the legislation is the legislation is probably in place. The rules are there. It's how it's applied and enforced. And we need political will to push back against terrorists and their supporters. Okay, we just got a statement now from someone. I can't read the name because it's too small. It's something that says the real something Cohen. Maybe it says Adam or something. I'm not sure. As an Israeli, we thank you for everything. We appreciate you, Hillel. You're one of our many saviors. God bless you. Thank you very much. That's very sweet, very kind. I appreciate it. We have some comments from Kamala. Says that she will donate tonight. Very good. I will be looking for it. That's great. Yeah, so just to remind everyone, if you want to donate, unwatch.org/donate, and you will help us. Let's see, I'm going to take a few more questions, and then we're going to come to the 1 hour mark, and then I think that'll be enough. We'll do it again, okay? It's been great to see all of you, and thank you for all your kind words of support. Can we build coalitions with other minority groups like the Copts, the Yazidis, the Druze, etc. at the UN? Yes, I think that all minority groups should band together against oppressive regimes. I was recently at an event called the World Liberty Congress, which is an incredible event that was founded by Masih Alinejad, the iconic women's rights hero of Iran. Leopoldo Lopez, the political prisoner from Venezuela who got out, is a great man. And the Russian dissident, former world chess champion, Garry Kasparov. The three of them created the World Liberty Congress, where you could say democracy fighters and minority groups. I met Kurds and other minority groups working together against oppressive regimes. So whether you're a human rights activist fighting an oppressive regime or a minority group, we all need to work together. And I believe alliances are very important. That's why we have our Geneva Summit for Human Rights with 25 groups. You can visit genevasummit.org. Our next event, again, is on February 18th in Geneva. It's our 18th annual Geneva Summit. You're all invited to come. Go to genevasummit.org. I have time for maybe one or two other questions. Let me take a look, see what we have here. Let's see. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see. I'm going to go actually to some of the questions that we collected from the past week. All right, here's a good question from Bar. I'd love to understand what success looks like for you in achieving UN Watch's mission. And Gabriella asks, what has been UN Watch's most important achievement in the last year? Shira asks also, what achievement are you most proud of from the past year? So those are a bunch of questions. I think we're going to end with that. So look, the fact is that to some degree, we're in a forum where you're going to lose. Because as I mentioned, the majority of the votes are Qatar, Cuba, Venezuela, Iran, the Islamic regime of Iran, Zimbabwe, dictatorships. So you go into the Human Rights Council, you go into the General Assembly, in most cases, you're going to lose the votes. That's the fact. So I'm entering an arena where in terms of winning votes, it's very hard to win the majority of votes to get something passed. So how do you define victory and achievement? So first, about defining victory. One thing is that even if a vote is the majority passes and they adopt a resolution that is biased and one-sided, if you get decent countries, if you get the United States and Canada and the Netherlands and Germany and France, democracies wherever they are in the world, Costa Rica, South Korea, Japan, if you can get them to vote the right way, then the world sees the moral majority. It might not be the numerical majority, but there is a moral majority. And the democracies, the liberal democracies, have the moral majority. So for us, it is a fight each time to try to get the democracies to do the right thing. And that's part of our battle. And we are able to get some countries to change votes. When the UK changed their votes in a favorable way and began opposing anti-Israel resolutions at the Human Rights Council, to explain why they did so, they cited our data. So that was an example of how we helped to influence at least one country to change their votes in a more balanced way, not supporting Hamas, but opposing Hamas resolutions. They cited our data to explain why they changed their votes. Our biggest achievements, I'm going to mention a few. The past year, we've been exposing the complicity of UNRWA, the UN agency that's supposed to help Palestinians, but which does the opposite. They perpetuate war and conflict. They perpetuate resentment. They tell Palestinians who live in Gaza that Gaza is not your home, even though Gaza is beautiful. I was at Oxford University. I mentioned in the debate that Gaza is beautiful beachfront property. And from the rafters up, they said, shame, shame. They didn't understand. They were ignorant, these students, sadly. I've been to Gaza. I've been to the beaches. They are beautiful beaches, beautiful white sand, and they could be made beautiful. It could be Tel Aviv 2.0. It could be the French Riviera, Nice 2.0. Israel gave them the land 20 years ago, pulled out every soldier, every Israeli civilian, handed it to the Palestinians. Sadly, they built terror tunnels. And UNRWA teaches the students, your home is not here in Gaza. Your home is in Israel, and your mission is to return, which means to dismantle Israel. And the so-called right of return, that means to dismantle Israel. And that is what UNRWA teaches all the Palestinians who live in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Jordan, and so forth. So if we want to make peace, if we want to have a solution, even if you believe in a two-state solution, UNRWA is the opposite of a two-state solution, because UNRWA teaches the Palestinians in Gaza and elsewhere that they have to dismantle Israel, that Israel has no legitimacy. So we have been leading the fight against UNRWA. We have been exposing their complicity with terrorism. Go on our website, unwatch.org, see the UNRWA terror network, see how the head of the UNRWA Teachers Union, Suhail al-Hindi in Gaza, was a elected Hamas terror chief. The head of the UNRWA Teachers Union in Lebanon was Fathi Sharif, the head of 2,000 teachers of UNRWA and the terror chief of Hamas. And the IDF eliminated him, and Hamas admitted he was our leader. So this is a massive network. Everyone at UNRWA knows. They're lying when they say they don't know. The heads of the unions, the heads of the schools are Hamas terror chiefs. It's all documented in our reports. And we are very proud that we've been exposing this. I've been testifying in parliaments in Italy, in the Senate, in the German parliament, in the European parliament, in the Swiss parliament. I went in the Foreign Affairs Committee of the Swiss parliament, of the lower house and of the upper house, the National Council, the Council of States, US Congress 4 times, and other parliaments, the Dutch parliament. And we were able to get $468 million defunded. I'm going to say that again. $468 million defunded from UNRWA. The large part of that, of course, is coming from the United States, but we got the Netherlands to vote to begin defunding UNRWA, $5 million every year. They were giving $20 million to cut off $5 million every year. Sweden announced, I think it's something like $40 million Sweden cut from UNRWA, giving it to other agencies. And America was giving $400 million. It's now zero. I'll say that again. America was giving $400 million of your taxpayer money to fund UNRWA terror chiefs, Hamas terror chiefs running the schools. It's now zero. Zero to UNRWA. Executive order was signed. Not a penny is going from America to UNRWA. They lost $468 million. UN Watch is leading the battle to expose UNRWA, to call for it to be defunded, to call for it to be removed. This is, I would say, our main accomplishment of the past year. And we need to do the same. Canada, Australia, the UK, France, Norway have to stop funding an agency that is infested with terrorists. So we're going to keep fighting. And if you're going to help us, if you are donating to UN Watch, unwatch.org/donate, if you are supporting UN Watch, you are going to help us defund an agency that makes war, not peace. Leading Palestinian Ahmed al-Khatib said UNRWA is an agency supporting terrorism. The Swiss foreign minister, Ignazio Cassis, said it. It's part of the problem, not part of the solution. We need to stop UNRWA. If you care about peace, support peace by ending UNRWA. I'll mention one other accomplishment, and with that I will conclude, because we're out of time for this call. The last accomplishment I will mention is pushing back against UN officials who abuse their mandate. The infamous UN rapporteur Francesca Albanese, she supports Hamas. All of her tweets are supporting the Hamas narrative, nonstop telling lies. We exposed her. We did many reports. We exposed her financial wrongdoing. She said repeatedly that she didn't take any money to go to Australia, but we know that a UN committee revealed that she did take money from external groups to her travel within Australia, within New Zealand. The UN Coordination Committee said so in their findings in their letter of March of this year. And that means she lied. And we know one of the groups, the AFOPA, Australian Friends of Palestine, supporting Hamas. They support Yahya Sinwar. They praised him. They were funding her trip in Australia. We exposed her financial wrongdoing, her fundraising that she does, taking money for her speeches. That was found to be inappropriate. And we exposed all of it. We got countries to condemn her: Germany, France, the Netherlands, Italy, Canada, and others, Argentina, Hungary, condemned her. Several of them called for her to be removed. And famously, Marco Rubio, those who signed, 120,000 people who signed our petition. Thank you all for signing the petition. Marco Rubio, thankfully, Secretary of State, on July 9th, announced for the first time in history, America sanctioned a UN official. Francesca Albanese was listed as one of the designated persons. She is sanctioned. She can no longer go to America. Okay. Last year she was lecturing in Harvard and Princeton and Georgetown and Barnard, brought by the universities themselves, not the students. The universities themselves. No more lecture tours and college campuses in the US for Francesca Albanese. She is banned from America. She had to give her annual report in New York at the General Assembly. She's banned. She couldn't come into New York to give the report. And she can't use her credit card. She was complaining. She was crying. You saw in the video we posted about a week or two ago with the violins in the background. She was saying these sanctions are heavy. They're heavy in Italian, and they're ruining her life. She said that she went to rent a car in Napoli, and with her family, and she couldn't rent a car because her credit cards don't work anymore. Good. If you support Hamas terrorism, you should be sanctioned. You shouldn't enter America. You shouldn't have access to the financial system. She supports terrorism. And we saw the deterrent effect that the head of the Commission of Inquiry, Navi Pillay, resigned days later. Insiders said Navi Pillay resigned because she has children and grandchildren in America and she wants to visit them and she didn't want to be sanctioned. Navi Pillay supports Hamas as well, sadly, and is viciously anti-Israel, never should have been head of the Commission of Inquiry. So UN Watch led the campaign successfully to sanction Hamas spokesman de facto, the UN's de facto spokesman, Francesca Albanese, and we're going to keep fighting. Her and several of her UN rapporteur colleagues who are also engaged in supporting terrorism. We're not going to stop fighting. With your support, by December 2nd, we need to raise $1 million. We've raised $270,000. Help us reach our goal. We still have a way to go. If you haven't donated, now's the chance. unwatch.org/donate. Any donation counts. For $180, you can be a member. That would be amazing. $1,800, you can be in the next level of the Advocates Club, $5,000 in the Guardians Club, $10,000 in the Ambassador Circle, $25,000 Leadership Council, $50,000 a member of the UN Watch Cabinet. Whatever you can donate is incredibly important for us and for a voice of truth, justice, morality needed at the UN more than ever before. The UN is a global organization. It influences what goes around the world. It's an ecosystem. Hamas tells lies, the UN launders it, and then it gets reported by the BBC and every news agency in your country around the world, fanning the flames of hatred, supporting terrorism, supporting anti-Semitism, and we need to fight back. We need to tell the truth. UN Watch is doing so. Thank you for your support. Thank you again to everyone who donated. It really means a lot to me. Thank you for all your kind words. Keep supporting UN Watch. You will keep hearing from me. I'll update you on our latest activities. Thank you, everyone. God bless.